myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you.
Good evening, my name's Steve Wraith.
I'm Malcolm MacDonald.
And I'm John Gibson.
And this is NUFC Matters. Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters. Great to be back, a little break, and we're going to have another break next week. I'll come on to that at the end of the programme. But time to look back on our recent fixtures. First of all, lads, let's look back at the Aston Villa game, a game which we all expected, I think, to get something out of, but ultimately we were, left scratching our heads and left disappointed.
Scratching our heads, my word. It was one of the worst displays I've seen. I was absolutely horrified by it. The back line seemed totally disorganised, and yet in other games they've looked so good.
Oh, I mean, it staggered me, Malcolm.
Yeah.
I didn't think they could be so bad, and then I was staggered yet again because the same team with one change at right back that was so awful, Villa, go out against Manchester City. Now, magnificent, disciplined, well organised, and they go behind twice and the heads never dropped on either
and it's
occasion.
Inexplicable.
How
why are they so bad at Villa, who are a pretty poorish side by comparison to them going out against Man City. And all right, Man City were a much better footballing side, but over the 90 minutes, Newcastle matched them for effort and for so many things. I mean, and certainly goal scoring, they matched them.
The whole season now is starting to take shape, and it's going into an obvious pattern, which is at home they're very difficult to beat. They've gone 6 games unbeaten since the opening day of the season when they lost to Arsenal. And in that 6 games, they've played the 2 Manchester Giants, they've beaten Man U, and they've drawn with City. Okay, there was a couple of dodgy draws with Watford and Brighton in there, but it's 6 games unbeaten at home. Away, more often than not, I think they've won 2 and lost 5, more often than not to get turned over. So that they've now got an immediate divide of when they go away, can we expect much? And when we're at home, we can expect a real fighting performance anyway.
Well, against Aston Villa, there at Villa Park, it horrified me to see the back four in such disarray. The midfield, well, I couldn't find them. No. I really couldn't find. I was searching the television screen, and we've got much bigger screens than we used to have decades ago, and still I couldn't find the midfield
at all. Let's be optimistic. That game's 2 games ago. We've forgotten that. It's gone.
The point I'm making, though, John, is are they saving themselves up for the big boys and not putting the same in against the lesser fry?
I take the point you make. Like
that's
we
the
get
concern
results
that
against
I have.
Spurs and Manchester United and Man City, but we don't in the smaller ones.
Watford outplayed Newcastle at St James Park, and they're bottom of the league.
I mean, the thing that bothered me was the down there, and I really do want to forget about Villa and talk more about Man City.
Well, let's move on.
That was the last game, wasn't it?
It was. We had to touch on Villa because that's where we finished off, and it was, for me, it was disappointing. We didn't turn up. Everything that's gone wrong.
It was horrendous.
It was
this was so much better.
So then, typical Newcastle United, we didn't have time to come in and make predictions for that game. We didn't do the show last week, but Newcastle playing Man City, you're expecting them to get hammered. and we come away with a creditable point, a 2-2 draw.
Oh, without a shadow of doubt. And all this sort of the sadness that we found down there, like the indiscipline on giving away the 2 free kicks at Villa that led to the goals, and then the indiscipline on the way those free kicks were executed. We got a different thing up here. And the thing that really delighted me up here, Malcolm and Steve, up here against City, was that we knew there was a great likelihood Newcastle would go behind, because Man City are a good attacking side. They desperately needed a win to stay on the coattails of Liverpool, so we expected Newcastle might go behind. They went behind twice.
Yes.
And their heads did not drop.
No.
And they went behind to a stomping goal by De Bruyne with about 8 minutes to go, and you think, how cruel is that? They had time to come back.
They
come again.
On. You could see them all geeing each other up.
They came again.
And they got right back into the game.
An equally superb strike. If De Bruyne had a great strike, and my Joe, wasn't it? I mean, Shelby's right foot drive.
He didn't look to strike it hard or anything. It was
Controlled,
pure placement. With a lot of curl that took it away from the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
I thought it was an absolutely magnificent goal.
No, it was 100%. I think you're right. The heads didn't drop. The character was there for all to see. From our perspective, though, the downside, and we've mentioned it time and time and again on this show, is forwards haven't scored again.
It's quite staggering, really, isn't it? Because we've got 13 goals, and 1 as a forward, and I think it's something like 8 from defence and 4 from midfield.
Yes.
And it's quite incredible. And I keep thinking it can't keep happening. I.e., that midfielders and defenders score, and yet they are at the moment.
Yeah.
Yes.
They are at the moment.
Yeah. Is it becoming a hang-up?
Well, it is.
For all 3 of them.
Maybe it is. I mean, there was an assist. Let's try to accentuate the positives. There was an assist for Almiron.
Almiron, yes.
I mean, and it was, and he could be happy about that. I think he performed well. Me personally, and I've had a bit of stick on social media for this, I thought Joe Linton played his worst game. Some people must have been watching a different game to me, because I thought he wasn't getting up for the headers. He looked lethargic, and Steve Bruce must have seen the same as I did, because he took him off and put Dwight Gale on, who we've spoken about.
Quite early took him off instead of the last 5 minutes.
And Gale looked different class to what Joe Linton had been in that previous hour.
Yeah, I thought he looked. He
was lively. And really lively. Joe Linton.
He's a real concern.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think so.
I quite agree with you, Steve. Even for me, Joe Linton's a much greater concern than the 2 wide men.
Yeah.
At least they're contributing something and getting the ball up the pitch quickly and
that twisting and turning
opposing
players.
You can see what they bring to the table, although they've got to start scoring, they really have. But you can see what the wide guys bring to the table. I am not certain at this moment that Joe Linton is bringing anything to the table.
So a question. On what you saw against Man City, would you play Joe Linton or would you play the little fella?
It's a great question, Malcolm, because first and foremost, Newcastle haven't got the right bodies there. If they want to play with an orthodox big centre forward, and by the way, Joe Linton isn't an orthodox big centre forward. And the only one that could do that's Carroll, who hasn't been fit.
And Joe Linton has been failing in that task.
Because he just doesn't look that at all.
But with Dwight Gale, you can't say, right, well, we've got a big man up there. You haven't. So you've got to play it into the channels for him to run onto, rather than looking at it
I would take that chance, because I always remember, and I'm not suggesting in any way the front 3 today is anywhere near the class of the 3 I'm going to mention, but I always remember that when Keegan first came to Newcastle as a player and played in the side, it was Keegan, Waddle and Beardsley as a front 3. All terrific on the ball, all a great touch, and they were superb. And there wasn't a centre forward, and the guy that actually went through the middle more often than not was Keegan, who's about Dwight Gale in size, a bit more strength, but in size. And so you would have to adapt your play to play it a little bit different than just a target man. But I'm glad we brought Joe Linton up, because we've had a chance now to really look at him over a period of time rather than make a quick decision. And he worries me because we get the usual excuses, which I can understand fans or other people or the head coach wanting an excuse, but about, you know, he doesn't get service, etc., etc. For me, Rondon didn't get service, but he made things happen.
He made things happen.
He made things. And he used his physicality, he used his build to get into the two centre halves, rough them up, push them about, make things happen. To me, Joe Linton...
And he wasn't just simply through the middle, he would make his runs out to the corner flags.
But Joe Linton, for me, while he strips brilliantly, i.e. when he runs on the field, he looks a real athlete.
Yes, he does.
But he is more passive than aggressive. He's passive in his play. I mean, at times, to me, he looks disinterested. It's not the word. He looks morose. He looks as though he's not enjoying life, as though this isn't the sort of football that he plays. He has no aggression about him. He's a pacifist, and as a centre forward, that is a disaster. You weren't that. Shearer wasn't that. Jackie Milburn wasn't that.
People about, and if you don't, they'll knock you about.
Rondon, who wasn't a huge goal machine, but did score. He was a handful. He irritated and he pushed people about, and he got the same service as this fella's getting.
He did.
But he made things happen. And Joe Linton doesn't make things happen. He's passive. For a guy of his size, and he ambles. I mean, I saw a couple of balls and we were sitting next to each other, and I said to you, get through the byline, pulled a great ball across the 6-yard box. He's ambling from the edge of the 18-yard box towards the 6-yard box. Ambling. Not breaking his neck. Angled.
And it should be a flat-out sprint.
He should be bumped. And it concerns me. It really does concern me. And we've got to try something different. And for him too. Tries to either pull him out, take him out the firing line, let him relax, or try to play him wide left. If that, but of course, the difficulty then is you're not going to drop maximum.
Sure, but what happens is, John, I think when with a lot of players who are new to the type of football that's played in the Premier League, the pressure that there is on players, and that sometimes they get to a point where they've hit that brick wall and they just cannot get any further. And that's the time for a manager to take them out, give them a complete rest, let all the marbles in their head fall into the right place. And then you can bring them back a bit later, invigorated.
The interesting thing is the two wide ads,
they're looking full of it.
And they miss chances because they get in there, they try to make things happen that quick. They get in the penalty area and miss chances. Joe Linton doesn't miss chances because he never gets there to have a chance.
And he's not going to get
He's not
even missing chances.
No, he's not missing chances at all. And that's much more worrying. That's much more worrying.
And of course the league is so tight. You know, I mean, I've never seen it as tight as this coming up to Christmas, but you know, 2 wins can jettison you probably up into the top 6 or 7.
Oh, sure. And 2 defeats can send you the other way.
Get you right back down into the mire. So at the moment, this big run of fixtures, I mean, we've got 2 games this week, which we'll come on to later on. One on Thursday and one on Sunday. Well, you lose those 2 games and you're straight back in the relegation fight. So it's a crucial time, this. And usually it's Christmas, what we all talk about it being a busy festive period. So it is really interesting.
That's the big danger time,
Yeah, good. Let's move on. Let's look at Shelby. Sorry to interrupt you, John. But look at Shelby. Shelby, we haven't been Shelby's biggest fans on this show either. You know, for good reason. He's, we've said he's lazy. We've pointed out all the things which annoys you. But look at him in the last 2 games. I mean, the Villa game was everything that was bad about Shelby.
Yes.
The Man City was everything that was good. Yeah. And you know,
he did a great portrayal of the Invisible Man.
Yeah, and now he's now top goal scorer. He's scoring goals and he's adding a little bit in. But he's, there's no doubt about it against Manchester City. That was Shelby.
Enjoy it.
Yes.
So you know that he's loving the game at the moment, and it just makes me scratch my head.
It's frustrating
as to how he can just disappear as he did against Aston Villa, and yet you know, you would think that he would dominate Aston Villa and disappear against Man City.
course.
But he's doing
Of
it
course.
the other way round.
Yeah.
I mean, the interesting thing, he has always suffered. I mean, what is he now, 27, 28? He should be at the peak of his career.
Yeah.
Contract up next season, I think, as well.
He's looking now for a contract,
Wants
which
to
is
stay
going
at Newcastle,
which
he
is going to
says.
help. Well, of course he does. Is he going to get it? Where's the better club than Newcastle in
Sure.
terms of 50,000? We
Yeah.
know it's not that at the moment, but it's as near as Darnell,
Yeah.
and that's the potential of
Yeah.
the club. He is going to get a smaller club than Newcastle if he's transferred, because he's not going to get a Champions League club. John Joe's problems have always been consistency. It has never been a lack of talent. The talent that we can all see is the reason why he went to Liverpool and the reason why he got England caps.
Yeah.
The reason why he left Liverpool and the reason why he stopped getting England caps was his inconsistency.
Yeah.
And that has always been about his game.
And the reason why he left Swansea,
Yeah.
because he was just out in the wilderness there.
Is this a new John Joe Shelby then? Do you think because he's been given the captaincy, because Bruce has given him the chance, do you think we're going to see the best of him now?
I hope so, but I wouldn't put my hat on it, simply because he disappeared against Aston Villa, he reappeared against Manchester City and was terrific, and not all that well supported, I felt, by the fella next to him, Hayden. He seemed... He didn't seem to be able to get up to the pace of the game, I don't think. But Shelby, it's one bad game, one good game.
One bad game, one
I think
we need much better from him. We need a greater consistency.
Yeah.
He is what he is, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know,
He's not going to change now.
No, I don't think at this stage of his career he's going to change.
Shelby against Man City could well be in the England side, but then Shelby against Aston Villa, dear me, he wouldn't get into Gateshead reserves.
Before we move on to the next topic of conversation, I just want to give a shout out to @Cult0s Malcolm, who kindly sent us this, the camera. Can you see that? Malcolm, recognise that guy?
That handsome young man.
Now, you often comment on what I'm wearing. Malcolm MacDonald's, a big thank you to a Fulham fan.
Really? A Fulham fan?
@Cult0s on Twitter, who sent us that. He's also kindly said, because he enjoys watching the show, even though we're not talking about the black and white club that he supports down at Craven Cottage, that he'll throw in a one for a viewer. So anybody who can log on to YouTube tonight and subscribe to NUFC Matters, you put yourselves in the hat for winning this T-shirt. So if I ask you to do that now, I can keep an eye on who basically logs on to YouTube and who subscribes tonight to NUFC Matters. That's all you've got to do. Subscribe to the channel tonight now, and at the end of the show, just before I introduce the band, I will announce the winner, and you will win the T-shirt. All we'll need of you is your address and your size, and @Cult0s on Twitter will send you a copy, a nice black and white version of this T-shirt. So thanks very much for that. Much appreciated.
Absolutely.
I don't get one.
Well, Malcolm, if you want one, now's your time. What
You
size
know
would you
who
like,
you
Malcolm?
are.
Or do we do this discreetly? I think a size bigger than mine, I think, would be appropriate for Malcolm.
What are you trying to say?
Well, just slightly wider, because you've always had that strut about you on the pitch.
Shoulders.
Yeah, I haven't got the shoulders, you see. Gibbo, do you want one for bed as well?
Yeah, I think we should be sitting there with Supermac.
We should, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gibbo goes to bed
It
with
is
Malcolm. There's your
Christmas.
headline. There's your
It is
headline.
Christmas. Well, I used to go to bed with Albert Bennett, which is the old story, the Morecambe and White story.
This is
But
for the X-rated NUFC
That's a
Matters.
different thing.
After the watershed. Right, back on to serious matters. Richie, sad to say, but obviously in the time that we've had off for the last couple of weeks, Matt Ritchie had an injury setback on the training ground and
so
another
sad.
operation.
It is
so
sad,
sad
yeah.
because a heart the size of a frying pan.
Yeah.
I know Willems has come into his position, or the position that Matt was playing,
And
left
has
wing back, and has
really
done
built
well.
into it,
Oh,
hasn't he?
done terrific. But
Yeah.
Matt can play in several positions. He can play as an out-and-out winger, which is what he was on either side. His attitude is wonderful, coming off the box, off
got a
the bench
fantastic
is wonderful.
attitude.
If we have a penalty, incidentally, he's the only one that can take a penalty in the squad. Think about it. And it's sad. And you know what angers me really, Malcolm, as well, is I remember watching the game that he was injured in, which is Leicester City in the League Cup. Not the 5-0, the 1-1 up here when we lost on penalties. And the tackle by the boy that tackled him with his feet off was horrendous.
It was.
And should have been, when it happened, not with hindsight, a red card. He
It
didn't get it. It was bang on half time, if you remember. And Brendan Rodgers, who's no fool, took him off within a minute of that tackle because he knew what was coming in the second half if he didn't do that, and they would be down to 10 men. I was really, really aggrieved by that tackle at the time. I thought it was shocking, and not enough was made of it. And I don't think they could do anything in hindsight because he did get yellow carded, I think. So they couldn't go back to it. An exam didn't say, right, you know, we're going to suspend you. But it was a dreadful, dreadful tackle.
It was, and he'll be, as I say, you know, when you get to the business end of the season, we hope that he's back, and it'll be like a new player coming in.
Yeah, what you've got to remember is, of course, that the age that he's at, he's turned 30, hasn't he? And so it takes that bit longer to recover.
Oh, it's awful.
From those kind of injuries.
It is very, very sad.
100%. Steve Harper, back at the club, goalkeeping coach. I mean, it's a feel-good factor story, good PR, but he's very good at his job, you know, got all his qualifications, and he's a Geordie.
It's beyond Steve, the goalkeeping coach. He's going to link in with the academy, but they're still keeping Simon Smith as head of the goalkeeping department as the coach. But when I talked to Steve way before this season, he was very anxious, and he took his badges. He was very anxious to be a coach, but not to restrict himself to being a goalkeeper coach. He wanted to be an out coach.
Yes, I understand
not
that.
Just a goalkeeper
and good luck to him, but I can't see how Steve Harper being there, that the other fella Simon Smith can show a seniority over Harper.
There's a very big difficulty there. I quite agree.
Yeah, there's going to be a massive problem because Steve Harper is going to look at Simon Smith and he's going to say, well, you're not right there. You've got that wrong. And he wasn't the greatest of players himself, was he? He never reached any real heights.
Who are we talking about here? Simon Smith?
Simon Smith, yes.
No, he played for me at Gateshead.
At Gateshead.
He set a record of about 500 appearances.
Right, and that was the sort of pinnacle of his
he
career.
just played non-league. He didn't play league.
Sure.
He didn't play league.
Sure.
I think...
And Harper, I know that he was sort of on reduced circumstances because of Shay Given being at the club at the same time, but nevertheless,
I think it's a matter of Steve Bruce, Malcolm, and it is difficult on how it physically works day to day.
It's not going to be easy for Steve Bruce.
No.
On this at all.
Well, it's going to be harder for Simon Smith, maybe.
It is.
But I mean, I think from Steve Bruce's point of view, it's just somebody he can trust going back onto his team. He managed him at Hull City, you know. When Harper left Newcastle, he signed for Steve Bruce at Hull City, and he worked under Steve Bruce, Agnew, and Clements, the same three that's at Newcastle at Hull. So you've got a man that you can trust from Steve Bruce's point of view in Steve Harper, and they're going to use him as a link into the academy, having got the Longstaffs out the academy, etc., etc. Because of course they train at a totally different complex from the first team.
Yes, they do.
So they want that link, that bridge, and he's using Steve Harper. Though what Stephen will do day to day with the first team, I'm not quite certain.
No,
and
it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out.
But I like the man, and I hope it works. I like Steve Harper, and he's got a heart of gold, and I hope it works.
He's a lovely fella.
It is a positive, you know, it's a feel-good factor story.
It is.
Injury-wise, again, Andy Carroll was, you know,
get away. You can keep him in for the rest of the season in the injury.
You know better than us. Was it bruised ribs? Was that the excuse?
Well, yeah, but the amazing thing is, bless him, he's getting injured and never playing. He's getting injured in training. I mean, he's just got.
Why?
He's always put.
Why is the question?
He's always put his body at risk. His style of play is. From being a kid, I mean, not now, from being a kid, is I go out there and I'm Joshua in the penalty area, and he stretches and pushes and pulls me, and his body's taking its toll because there's a fragility there, obviously, as well.
Obviously.
And I don't think he's ever going to be sustainable fit.
No.
The interesting thing is he's got nowhere near starting a game yet, and we've talked about Joe Linton and the lack of goals up front. If ever there was an opportunity to start a game at Newcastle United, is now.
Yeah.
He's not been able to do that. We're coming to Christmas, if you like, halfway through the season. His contract's only for the season. What's going to happen to him at the end of the season?
Yeah.
If he's not fit to help us now, and I know it's a pay as you play situation, but there's still a basic wage to pay. It's still a shirt taken, and everybody's talked about, well, the reason why we're not starting with either Carroll or Gale, despite the lack of goals up front, is because they're not fit. Now, in Carroll's situation, I understand that because he physically isn't fit. In Gale's situation, you're talking about match fitness now, not physical fitness, because the trouble he had at the beginning of the season is gone. And the only way Gale is going to get match fit is by playing.
By playing.
And
Absolutely.
if you don't
It's the
play
only
him
way
because
he
he's
can
not match fit,
Yeah.
it's a chicken and egg
the only way it
situation, isn't it?
happens.
The only way he's going to get fit is by being on the field.
The half an hour that I saw of him, I would start him in the next couple of games.
Yeah,
Sheffield
certainly.
United and Southampton, the great
Surely he's
opportunity.
going to
That
start
gets
in
him
one
match
of the
fit.
two, because it's 2 games in less than 72 hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
So spreading the load with certain people would be a good thing. And surely you can justify a change up front. You're not going to get
Absolutely.
Joe Linton knocking on your door saying, "Boss, you never give me a chance." He's played every single game for 1 goal since the start of the season.
If I had to say that there is one game that least suits Joe Linton, I would say it's Sheffield United away, because they will batter him.
Trouble is, will it suit Gale with 8'6" centre halves?
That's good. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting dilemma.
But he's
isn't it?
running. He's running. Joe Linton stands there and has to take it.
Very true. Very true. Very true.
And that's the problem. He's immobile, and so he is just going to constantly get walloped.
I think the key for me is that Shelvey and Dwight Gale have got form together. So if
Yes,
Dwight Gale is going to stay in the team,
absolutely, yeah,
they're mates, they've played together for a long time, they got promotion together.
When Gale scored a pile of goals, I know it was in
and
the
they can read
championship.
each other. So
Yes.
they can read each other. So surely that's got to be a positive. And,
Yeah.
and Steve Bruce has gone on record already and said that, Dwight Gale, he's admired him, he's wanted to sign him in the past. We all found it strange that he wasn't picking him when he was
Well, I was
saying
going
that.
to say, I'm staggered that he said all that and we still haven't seen him start a game, although he's fit.
So maybe he hasn't been, maybe he just hasn't been up to scratch in training or hasn't been, ticking all the boxes. It's a while since he played, so maybe he's been, taking his time putting him in. But hopefully, we might see.
And if you've got Dwight Gale, Almiron, and St Maximin,
you've got
pace
and
you've
movement,
got the
haven't you?
quickest forward line
And
in the
a
country.
lot of movement with Gale.
all the time.
a lot of movement.
Loads of.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking,
And
that would be what I would do on Thursday
Yes,
night.
and it will give Shelvey so many options every time he looks up.
Yeah, 100%. Fernandez, I mean, he's come in. Shaw's not getting a look in at the minute. Is that a surprise to you? For me, I tend to favour Shaw, but Fernandez has come in doing a good
I
job.
understand that, but he is doing a good job.
He is.
I raised half an eyebrow in the Man City team when Shaw wasn't back in because I thought that he possibly would be. Having said that, you've got to hold your hands up and say Fernandez has done great. But we're blessed with the 3 centre halves, aren't we?
Yes.
Yes, they didn't do so well at Villa as a one-off. But whoever will play the 3 centre halves, bearing in mind Lejeune's just about ready to come back.
Yes.
And you've got Dummett, and you had Lascelles, and you've got Fernandez, who's done terrific.
Yeah.
It's about the one area on the pitch where we would feel we're more than okay. For example, we're not more than okay, really, are we, at right back? When you think of Yedlin defensively, you think of this Swedish guy who's gone backwards, bless him, since he arrived here. He couldn't even, he was bought for a few million. He couldn't even get in the team when Yedlin was unfit against City. Manquillo got in. So there's other positions we haven't got goals up front. There's other positions where we're struggling, but possibly where we're not. His goalkeeper, terrific. And your 3 centre-halves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a system that I've never been a lover of.
3 centre-halves.
3 centre-halves. But it's working in Newcastle's case. And if it works, keep doing it.
Yes.
So Sheffield United first. Let's look at that game. You cannot not be impressed with Sheffield United. We'll go on to that, the FA Cup shortly. I know what you're going to go on about. The Sheffield United game first. How do you see that going? You know, it's a tough game. It's a tough game.
It's going to be a very tough game.
You cannot not be impressed with the way they play.
Tough physically,
Yeah.
tough athletically.
Yep.
Sheffield United are probably just about the hardest working side.
Yeah.
In the division at the moment.
Yeah.
And they put everything into it.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to see them against Man United, that they went into the lead, and for an hour they were quicker, fitter, tougher, jumped higher than Man United. But then after about an hour they started to tire, and Manchester United then finished up getting into the lead with 3 quick goals.
Yeah.
But, and this is the spirit of Sheffield United, they suddenly found a second wind, and they went flying back at Man United in those last few minutes, and they finished up getting a creditable and well-deserved draw. And I thought, well done you. But that's the kind of thing that I'm not so sure that Newcastle United will enjoy playing against.
I mean,
because it's sheer effort. They just don't give up.
No.
This overlapping centre-halves always makes me smile as well, because it's in dead revolutionary, and yes, it's so different to play again. But it reminds me a little bit, that's what I used to talk to Darren Peacock about, because in the entertainer side, you said Kevin Keegan had overlapping centre-half. Only trouble is I wasn't one of them. Philip Albert was down playing in their box, and I'm standing on the bridge down here. And I said, you're a very lucky boy, because what his ultimate aim, Keegan, was he wanted an overlapping goalkeeper. He was so attacking-minded, he wanted an overlapping goalkeeper. But you talk about overlapping centre-halves, and they do that. They do go and people slot it. And it's a breath of fresh air. It's different, it's original, and it's working. I mean, this doesn't matter for Thursday night, but what I'm going to be interested with Sheffield United is if they stay up, and I believe they will, and I hope they do, because they deserve to. It'll be interesting next season to see if people have worked out their tactics, because their tactics have been totally new to the Premier League this season.
Yes, they have.
And sides are sitting there and saying, ooh, wait a minute.
But
it won't be new next season.
I do remember it happened to Huddersfield, though, when they came up. They'd had a great start of the season and were sitting top of the Premier League, and then they got found out the second half of the season. It can happen like that.
It does.
Oh, yeah, it can.
It does. Watford was another one that they finished second, didn't they?
It's often the second season.
The second season.
If we look at it, which is what you were asking originally, Steve, if we look at Newcastle playing on Thursday night at Sheffield United, what a one to forecast that is. If we went on current Newcastle United form, which is away from home, they lose 5 out of 7. And at home, they don't lose, then you would forecast we'll get a narrow defeat against Sheffield United and a narrow victory against Southampton. And I've got a feeling that it might be that way. I'm looking for a point at Sheffield United, but I could see we're getting a narrow one-goal defeat, 2-1-1 at Sheffield United, and then beating Southampton narrowly by possibly the same scoreline.
Yes, but what concerns me is that Newcastle, I said this at the very beginning of the programme, that Newcastle, they lift everything for the Man Cities, the Man Uniteds, the Arsenals, the Tottenhams and so on. But then when it comes to Southampton, are they just going to go flat again?
It's so difficult to predict.
It's
so difficult to predict because they're Jekyll and Hyde.
Very. You just don't know what team's
are
going
you going to go for a draw, do you think, Thursday night with Sheffield United?
That's my hope. My belief is that they might lose by a goal. But my hope is a draw, and I'm certainly going for them winning a nervy. And if they do lose, it will be nervy against Southampton. But Newcastle to beat Southampton.
What about you, Mal?
Well, if Newcastle are seriously prepared to match the physicality and the running power of Sheffield United, which they can do because Newcastle are a fit side, I'll go for a draw, and I can see goals being scored.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'll go for 2 each.
That's my hope. Is a draw.
Yeah.
My hope is.
Yeah.
They got. I mean, the forwards have got to break the duck sometime.
Right.
You know, they've got to break the duck. But they've got to.
I feel so much better hearing you say that.
I mean, they cannot go through an entire season not scoring. So that would be like beyond the realms of possibility. So I'm going to go with you guys. I think a draw. I think a draw 2-2. I think sounds about right. I can see the team can score goals. That's the one positive. Forwards might not be scoring goals, but the team seems to be scoring goals.
If Joe Linton is left out and Dwight Gale is given his first start, that might just change the situation for the other two, St Maximin and Almiron.
Yeah.
And that they find that there's something else going on that Dwight Gale has brought into the side, and it will spark them off.
Yeah. So you're predicting a draw on Thursday, John?
Yes,
would
with
love a draw.
goals.
Thinks it's going to be a narrow defeat. You can see we're winning a nervy game against Southampton. How do you think we'll play against Southampton?
Now, Southampton can play some really good football, but they keep getting beat.
Yeah.
So you've just got to get on top of them, and I think that Newcastle United are well versed in this kind of thing at the moment, that they can get on top of sides, both physically and the way that they play the ball around. I would really be disappointed if Newcastle don't win by about 2 or 3-0.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a 1-0 win against Southampton. I think it'll be a nervy game, but I think we'll just edge it against them. I think got more than enough to beat Southampton.
I mean, one of the reasons, apart from the obvious, which is we must beat Southampton to keep the points difference, is it's the 50th anniversary of Newcastle United this year winning the European Fairs Cup.
Of course.
And the whole of the Fairs Cup squad are guests of Newcastle United for a big lunch before the game with Southampton on Sunday.
Good.
Very nice.
I'm going along
Lovely.
with them, which is wonderful. They're going on the pitch at half time to see the fans, etc. Please don't spoil our day. The Fairs Cup lads days. Let's have a victory from the modern side to go with that. I would love to see that, and I do think it'll happen. I think it might be nervous. The old fingernails might be getting bitten again, but I do think we'll win.
Well done to Newcastle for finally recognising that they've got a past as well.
Well,
Yeah,
3 weeks before the 50th anniversary year comes to an end.
You make a good point.
Hey,
Better late than never.
I'm pleased it's happening.
Yeah,
and
me too.
It's good.
They deserve it.
It's good.
Stephen Walker on Facebook says we will win the next 2 games, so he's very confident.
Good for him. I hope he's right.
Tell one of our regular watchers. He says, "Can you all just predict defeats? Because every time you predict defeats, we'll win," which is pretty true.
yeah.
Why do you think we do it, big
Is
man?
that us, or is it Newcastle United?
Maybe Brucey's tuning in and watching the show. Last thing we're going to finish off with tonight is obviously the FA Cup draw. And to be honest, we always prepare notes before the show. And maybe it's a subliminal message to myself here that I actually forgot about adding that to the list. Probably because I've just given in on the fact of us ever having a cup run again. Because,
I can understand that, mate.
I think that's probably why I didn't add it to the list. But John quite rightly pulled us up on it and said, you haven't mentioned the FA Cup draw.
Sure.
So Rochdale or Boston away?
Yes,
Right, first and foremost, I am absolutely sick and tired of managers not taking the FA Cup seriously.
Yeah.
Newcastle United are not going to win the Premiership.
No.
And so they've got to give it absolutely everything in cup competitions and go for it.
Yeah.
And for any manager to say that it's not important.
Yeah.
In fairness to Steve Bruce, he said they're opposite since he come, hasn't he? He said he wants to do FA Cups.
And
now is the time to prove it.
Well, now's the pressure on him.
Now's the time to prove it by picking a side capable of doing that.
And doing the job properly, round after round after round.
Yeah.
Now we've got it in the League Cup, which is the first under the new regime this year. We've got a tough draw, even though it was St James's Park because it was Leicester City under Rodgers. We're always going to emerge as a quality.
And they're one of the best sides I've seen this
without
season.
a shadow of a doubt. If we have any intention of having a pop at the FA Cup this year, that is one of the best draws we could get because what we're amounting to, Steve, here is that we're either going to play a team that plays Gateshead, which is Boston United are in Gateshead's league, and by the way, Boston United have lost this season to Gateshead and Spennymoor United.
Right.
So we're either going to play them, or we're going to play Rochdale, who are in Sunderland's league, which is the third tier of the thing, and Rochdale lost to Sunderland, who are only mid-table this season.
Oh, they're the only side worse than Sunderland, are they, in the division?
Now, I didn't say that, but it would seem as if that is one of the possibilities, Malcolm. Don't make me smile, I've got a split lip. If I push it too hard, we'll get Rochdale and lose to them. But I'm just making the point that if you're playing a League One club or a non-league, not even conference, 2 divisions down in non-league thing. As I say, they've come to Gateshead and lost 3-0 this season, Boston. You know, and Rochdale lost to Sunderland.
But this is an away game. It's at a tricky ground. If we get through to Boston or to Rochdale, and we've all been there before. Malcolm is a player,
I tell you
me
what,
as a fan.
if Newcastle United...
I have played at Spotland.
Have you?
Yeah, home of Rochdale. Yes, for Luton Town, and we won 2-0.
Well, there's an omen.
That was it. That was in a season that we got promoted.
If Newcastle United cannot put out a strong enough side to win at Rochdale or to win at Boston, they don't not just deserve to not win the FA Cup, but they don't deserve to stay in the Premier League. They should be able, quite simply, to beat clubs.
It should
like
be,
that.
But we know a way it works.
If I were...
It shouldn't work that way, though, Stephen.
Yeah,
No,
sure.
it's the
If
magic
I
of the
had
cup.
any power within Newcastle United, I would ban the phrase, I'm going to rest him.
Yeah.
And that should never, ever happen. You get a game like this, Rochdale or Boston, why not stick your best side out?
I remember going Newcastle not so long ago, going down to Stevenage, because my centre forward at Gateshead, Paul Thompson, was playing for Stevenage at the time. And I mean, an avid Newcastle United fan, Paul Thompson, a lovely, lovely lad, Geordie lad, played for me at Gateshead. He went to Stevenage from us, and he was number 9 for Stevenage, and number 9 for Newcastle United. It was Alan Shearer.
On the comeback trail from injury.
And Alan Shearer played in, I think, the God Draw down there, and played and won the replay. And Alan Shearer played in those games. And so he should, and Newcastle need
it was on the box,
to
wasn't
do
it?
that. I mean, when we went to the Cup final in '74, and we played Hendon and we played Scunthorpe.
That's right.
And we got through every round away from home. And Joe Harvey put out the full side. You played in all those games at Hendon, which was at Watford, because their ground wasn't good enough. And at Scunthorpe, etc., etc. That's the way it should be. And as you rightly say, because I'm sick of banging on about it, and I was delighted you took it up, is we're not going to win the Premier League in the foreseeable future, not this season. So let us try to win the FA Cup.
Let's go for it. And for heaven's sake, you look at the results that Newcastle have been getting against the likes of Spurs, of Man United and Man City so far this season, and you think, well, if we were to meet one of them in the final,
who's to say this?
Who's to say? Absolutely, John. You know,
you've got to buy a ticket to win the lottery, haven't you?
Let's have a go. Yes.
Couple of last minute points here. Tell again says, great show as always, guys. Striker issue is a massive issue, as you have said. I'm nervous about Thursday. I think for us it's about a strong midfield in that game. Win the battles and feed the front players in there, because we face real aggression, which is true about. Stephen Walker says the whole team in the first half of Villa was terrible. You won't get any arguments from us on that, I don't think. Paul Saunders says, hi guys, Joe Linton will come good. He's getting no service at all. He's playing with his back to goal 90% of the time. He's not run-done type of player. Gary Brown says, Supermac, my boyhood hero. My first game was his hat-trick against Liverpool. So he's happy to see you, Malcolm. Maybe he wants the T-shirt. But yeah, look, great, as always on Facebook. Always nice to get those kind of comments. And even Gibbo's getting stopped in the street in Prudhoe now, and people are saying that they've seen him on the show, which is good.
Which is quite amazing. I was well pleased.
No, which is good. So congratulations to Steve Hewitson, who is the winner of our T-shirt tonight from @Cult Zeros. So we will pass your details on, Steve, to the lads there, and thank you very much for supplying that T-shirt. A big thanks to UK Collection Services, as always, for sponsoring the show. Thanks for all your hard-earned cash putting into towards the setup and the Christmas decorations. I hope you've noticed.
What quality, Steve? Absolute
We are
quality,
impressed.
my friend.
But couldn't we
I
light
thought
the
that was a.
candle?
I thought it was a Christmas cake. I was going to eat it.
So we've got no show next week because our two guys who do the show are covering a pantomime. Oh yes, they are.
And
Not those two. Those two.
Yeah.
but we've got to get our Christmas shopping in.
And they've got to get a Christmas shopping in. So we will be back in 2 weeks' time to have a Christmas special, and then we're going to have a well-deserved break. So we're going to hand over now to Hector Gannett. All hail, all glory. That sounds quite religious. And we'll be back in 2 weeks' time. So that's all from NUFC Matters.
Good night.
Good night.
All hail, all glory to the dead. Dulce et decorum. Well, Britannia rules the sea, but the land belongs to me. And you're my Boadicea. You don't fear the reaper. Oh, yeah, nuclear, oh, my Boadicea. You don't let them see you crying. Forgive your God above, for he knows not what he's done. Give in to those that come, seeking equilibrium. And for you all, light a candle at your door. I'll place flowers for rebirth of civilization, so foremost or empires. All hail, all glory to the dead. Pro patria mori. God Almighty, rain down, beat your fist upon the ground. Let the sky open up, then the land will belong to us. 'Cause you're my Boadicea. You don't fear the reaper. Oh, yeah, nuclear, you're my Boadicea. You don't let them see you crying. Forgive your God above, for he knows not what he's done. Give in to those that come, seeking equilibrium. And for you, I'll light a candle at your door. I'll place flowers for rebirth of civilization, so far